Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and we have yet another bad policeman story. As we say, the police are not your friends. This time, it is a Metropolitan Police officer, because just for a change, because it's always the Met, isn't it? It's nearly always the Met. And he has been found guilty of committing R against both a female officer and a young girl. And so now he's going to be convicted. He's going to go to jail. Well, one presumes, never know with the legal system, but you presume he's going to go to jail. And you'll have a really rotten time with him being a policeman. But we have to ask, why yet again are we having yet another Metropolitan Police officer getting arrested, convicted and going to jail for this sort of crime? It's all the time. 2-3 times a week I'm doing videos about policemen, and 9 times out of 10 for them it's about the Metropolitan Police. It really is a rank, disgusting organisation filled with the lowest of the low and the very worst kind of people. We'll take a look at this story to see yet again another Metropolitan Police officer convicted of this kind of crime. Here goes. Right, now, before we get into this one, I will say that there's going to be a follow-up almost straight away after this regarding the Met, and it's Mark Rowley, the Chief Commissioner, and he's got an issue as well. But we'll deal with this one first, and then we'll have a look at that one. But they are related, but they are separately related, if you know what I mean. They're the same sort of thing, but one is on the other side of the fence from this one. But we'll deal with this one. So, Met Police officer is found guilty of R-ing a female officer and a 16-year-old girl he met on a blind date after he lied about his age. And him being 44, kind of tell you that he's a 44-year-old man who likes them young. So as well as just being the R-er of women, he also it moves him into an entirely different bracket in terms of liking very young girls. And I do hope that whatever prison he ends up at, the welcoming committee makes sure he has an absolutely wonderful, I was going to say opening day, but no, it's every day. Every day of his entire sentence is a wonderful day. Something he can look back on and remember. Anyway, Adam Provan, of 44 of Newmarket in Suffolk, was convicted of 8 counts of R8. All the offences were committed while he was a serving officer in the Met Police. Adam Provan. Yeah, well, definitely been proven, hasn't it? So a former Met Police officer has been found guilty of 8 counts of R of 2 women, one of whom was a 16-year-old girl he met on a blind date after lying about his age. Adam Provan, 44, was convicted by a jury of 6 counts of R of a fellow police officer between 2003 and 2005, and 2 counts of R of a teenage girl whom he met on a blind date after lying about his age in 2010. All the offences were committed while he was a serving officer in the Met's East Area Command Unit. I'm going to see a picture of him, and there he is. Detective Sergeant Victoria James says these are truly dreadful offences. Yes, they are. And you know what? They're offensive. They're dreadful offences that we read about 2-3 times a week, every week, without fail. It's one officer, followed by another officer, followed by another officer. Why is no one dealing with all the monsters wearing blue uniforms? Provan, she continued, abused his position to win the trust of both these women. And I hardly need say, Provan's behaviour fell grossly short of what we expect from our police officers. Well, it might be short of what you expect, but after doing all the videos that I do about the Met Police particularly, it's more or less exactly what I expect from a Metropolitan Police officer. And there he is. You don't expect any different. They are awful, awful people. The 2010 assault was brazen and calculated, with clear indication he had planned it beforehand. The second victim suffered a campaign of controlling and abusive behaviour and SV. Can't say those 2 words together. YouTube doesn't like that. She said, I commend the incredible courage of both women and help us to bring Provan to justice. The Commissioner has been extremely clear there is no place in the Met for anyone who does not uphold the highest standards, and where there is criminality we will absolutely investigate and bring before the courts. half the problem they have, and I've done this before, half the problem they have in the Met is that even when things are done and people know about it, they don't say anything. So you've got the criminals themselves, you've got these terrible monsters of people themselves, but then everyone else is complicit because they're not whistleblowing. They're not going up to senior officers and saying, Officer so-and-so has done this. It's appalling. He needs to be investigated. They're not doing that. They're keeping their mouths shut because this code of silence that they have. You can't say anything to anyone, or else that you'll be threatened. It's just there, and so it means that every policeman has to be tarnished. Now, I'm not saying all policemen are like this. I'm not saying all policemen do these things, but any policeman that sees and knows these things are going on and doesn't go and whistleblow and doesn't say what's happening is just as guilty, even if they're not the one doing it, because they're guilty after the fact and they're guilty of perversion of justice. And so that's why you can't trust any policeman until the police themselves, until the actual individual officers themselves start whistleblowing and start doing it. It will continue. And also, you need to bring the senior officers need to be absolutely responsible for the officers below them, and that way, you're going to have a lot more oversight rather than officers just being left to get on with things. Anyway. Provan arred the 16-year-old girl in Woodland after meeting her through a friend in 2010 and lying that he was 22. Well, of course, back then he would have been in his early 30s. He then took her to Central Park Harold Hill in Romford and forced her to commit an act. The teenager had to go through 2 trials to see Provan brought to justice. And now he is. And now we know that he is an ara of women. He is an ex-policeman. He's going to go to jail. Let me tell you that the people in jail will know exactly who he is, and what he's done. He's a hair's whisker off being someone who does it to children. So, as a lot of people will think at 16, that's still a bit too young, and we'll have him out for that. So he is not going to have a good time in prison. It all depends on how long he receives. But it is. We'll see in a minute how long he's got. But it all depends on how long he's in for and where he goes. But let's hope it's horrible. But we'll find out when I get there. Anyway, she told a relative that she had been arred at the time, but it was not reported to police until 2016. And Provan was later convicted and jailed for 9 years. Oh, so he'd done 4.5. He was sacked from the Met in March 2019. However, he successfully appealed against those convictions, which were quashed in 2022. And a retrial began in May this year, along with 6 new counts of R relating to the second victim. So he gets convicted of the first lot, gets put in prison for 9 years. He'll have done 3. He's then appealed, had it quashed, retried, and now he is being found guilty the second time. But the second time, there's even more counts. The trial at Wood Green Town Court heard that Provan was a very physically abusive and controlling to the second victim, and the jury found him unanimously found him guilty of all 8 counts on Monday. He'll be sentenced in August. Now, the thing is, of course, he'll be resentenced for the ones he's previously done, and so they'll say that they existed, but he's already served time for them. So he's probably got to the end of those convictions, given that it's 4.5 years out of the 9, then you're released. However, you've now got the new convictions to go on, and so he can be given fresh convictions for them going forward. So he may have already finished serving the X number of years for the previous one, but now he's got new convictions, he'll get recharged, and that starts the clock again. So hopefully if he gets something like another 9 or 10 years, although it should be 30 years, it's now a second set. I mean, it's not a one-off behaviour, it's now set in him. He needs 30 years, because if he comes out shortly, he'll only be in the mood to do it again, and nothing can stop him. And this is why I say for crimes like this, a short dangling, you only commit it once. He wouldn't have been released ready to go and do it again. So tough, isn't it? I wouldn't mind seeing people like this dangle. I know sometimes that's unpopular, but not with me. Anyway, I'm rounding off and I'm coming up. So at least we know he is guilty and he is going to jail again. And this time, hopefully, for a lot longer. And hope he never gets out, really. But you can't help think that sometimes we need to change the punishment schedule in this country. And some people just need to not ever commit a crime again. It's a one-off, and then they'll just not be able to because of, swinging in the wind, and that's what we need. I'm a firm believer of bringing that back, and especially things like this. But I mean, he's an awful human being, but he managed to get through everything to become a policeman. So it shows that the vetting procedures in the police aren't good enough, and they aren't happening often enough. So you do need to have cyclical vetting, I think. To make sure this sort of thing isn't happening. And you also need to change the culture so that people are quite confident in going to senior officers or going to a reporting unit and actually having a police reporting unit for crimes like this that people can just go to anonymously, just to sort of kickstart investigations into people and things like that. And it would start helping bring these people to account and removing them from the force. And hopefully that way, trust can go back into the force, because at the moment I certainly don't trust a policeman. Never have done. Anyway, I shall stop there and come up. Thank you very much for listening. I will say, before we go, the very next video will be about Mark Rowley. I mentioned it at the header. We'll do it again. It's about what his position regarding these problematic policemen is. So do keep an eye out for that. Anyway, until next time, stay safe, stay well. We'll keep pushing for the truth, and goodbye.